This is your friend Isokari. Today we are going to examine poetry number 172. The title is "The Lessons from Solitude Are That They Remind and Project Your Lonely Entrance into the world and exit to the great beyond." Supported by the story, Jesus was the most popular man in Israel, at least in his time. He was a man of God who could turn water into wine, and he had produced them not in bottles but in drums. Those who loved wine, and there were many, did not toy with him at all. They followed him in large numbers with guards hidden in their robes, out of the hope that there could be a repeat performance. Here was a man of God who could miraculously feed 5,000 people in a day. Hunger was nothing new in Israel. Most of them were poor and could hardly feed themselves. After all, they had angered God and were therefore in captivity in their own land. So whoever could feed so many was not to be toyed with. They followed him in large numbers with bows hidden in their garments, out of the hope that he would do the same again. Here was a man of God who could heal the sick. In other words, they were spared the cost of seeking doctors, which many a poor person could not afford. This aside, Jesus was not healing them of only curable fevers. He was healing them of even the apparently incurable diseases and ailments. The blind could now see. The lame could now leap into the air. The dumb could now burst out in songs of praise. The deaf could now hear a pin fall to the ground. And the lepers could now see, share their births with new babies. A whole medical transformation and revolution was taking place. Why would the people not follow him? Here was a man of God who was not only a healer but could raise the dead. Why would the crowd after him not increase? Here was a man of God who wasn't like the hypocritical rest. He was not too holy for the ordinary people. Unlike the Pharisees, he did not despise those deemed sinners. He sat down with them, ate with them, and drank with them, so much so that his critics called him a glutton and a drunkard. Even prostitutes could come near him, chat with him, and touch him. Tax collectors were his friends. Why would such a man of God not be popular? Here was a man of God to whom children could run freely. They could sit on his lap and run their curious fingers lovingly through his beard. His love for them was unequaled. And he asked all to be like children because as he taught, it was people who loved like children who would be in heaven. Why would he not be heard by the multitude? Here was a man of God who could stand up to the Pharisees squarely and answer them toe to toe anytime they sought to trap him. Why would the unhypocritical majority follow such a man? Here was a man of God who was totally different from the rest and taught the word of God with convincing authority. Why would the timid masses not flock behind him? Jesus was so hemmed in by the crowd that he could hardly find space to have his quiet time, to enjoy any form of solitude. He had to run away from everybody, sometimes from his own disciples. It really was not easy for this popular teacher to be alone. He was loved and followed by the masses wherever he went. The display of his popularity as he entered Jerusalem on a donkey was only a miniature picture. The ecstatic joy with which the masses spread their clothes and palm branches on the ground for him was only a negligible manifestation of his popularity. Yet in the last days of Jesus, he had no one by him. One of his own disciples betrayed him for money, and his chosen disciples could not keep vigil with him while his spirit was troubled and needed their praying support. All his disciples fled and deserted him. When he was arrested, Jesus was arrested alone. Peter denied him when it mattered most. Jesus faced his trial alone and was disgraced alone, condemned alone, spat on alone, slapped alone, crucified alone, and died alone. Nobody followed him into his grave. He went there alone. These are some of the reasons one should learn to be alone sometimes. The lessons from solitude are that they remind you of your lonely entrance into the world and exit into the great beyond, or to the great beyond. It is important to never forget this, even though you may be crowded around in popularity. So you can see the lessons from solitude are that they remind and project your lonely entrance into the world and exit to the great beyond. Friends, I believe we have taken some lessons from this. God bless you.